What's up, everybody? How you doing? LSU finished the season with a 10th win in Brian Kelly's first season in charge at LSU. 10 wins under his belt, a 63-7 absolute just hammering, defiling, um, destruction of Purdue. This was not even a contest. I believe it was 28-0 after the first quarter alone. Sorry, 14-0 after the first, 21-0. Sorry, 21 points scored in that second quarter. Going to half 35-0. We had the score 34-14. Our final score prediction was 34-14. LSU scored 35 points in the first half. This was businesslike from LSU. This was professional. This was ruthless as well. This was LSU punishing every Purdue mistake with points, and most impressively, they came out of the traps, just total guns blazing. Just they kept it going for 4 quarters as well. You know, the last second of the game, they had a pick six. That's keeping the intensity going. Scoring 14 quarters in the 14 points in the third quarter, 14 points again in the fourth as well. You saw it all tonight, people. You saw it all if you were an LSU fan. You saw every quarterback. You saw Jaden Daniels. Okay, you saw the best Jaden Daniels. You saw him running in the open field. You saw him making some good throws. You saw him making some typical Jaden Daniels throws, which, maybe they weren't the best. Some throws that were behind or some throws that were underthrown. You saw the best of Garrett Nussmeier, and then you saw the worst on that interception. So you got to see the Garrett Nussmeier experience as well. He had a really good showing today from Nussmeier. Jaden Daniels, 12 of 17, 139, the one touchdown pass, I believe, to Mason Taylor. Garrett Nussmeier, 11 of 15, 173 for 2 touchdowns. And then, of course, that pick in the end zone when he's aiming for Kyron Lacey. And then we also even got to see Walker Howard. Walker Howard was, looking good, running the ball in the RPO action. Fantastic to see Walker getting to play with, of course, no red shirt being affected, nothing like that. And he looked good. He looked like quite a dual threat option. I'll say that. Um, and then we saw another quarterback we had no clue we were going to see. We saw another quarterback we weren't anticipating. Right? We saw a fourth quarterback. Who am I talking about? Matt O'Dowd? Tevion Falk? No, no, no. We're talking about Malik Neighbors. 2 for 2, 50 yards. Throws a bomb to Kyron Lacey, I believe, 40 yards down the field. And then they run it again. Give him the ball again. Do the trick play again. He throws a touchdown. 2, who else? Jaden Daniels. So now you got Jaden Daniels catching a touchdown, rushing for, I think it was 10 plus touchdowns this season, and now throwing for 10 plus touchdowns this season. So he's done it all. He's thrown touchdowns, he's rushed for touchdowns, he's even caught a touchdown here. It's pretty nuts. But really, this game was about Malik Neighbors. I mean, this game was about Malik Neighbors. Malik Neighbors went off. 163 yards, 9 catches, 12 targets, importantly. They finally continuously gave him the football, fed him. 12 targets, 9 catches, the brilliant touchdown, the little jet sweep toss. What he just takes it. I mean, this was next level from Malik. The way he just burst and just cut and just flew through that defense, just absolutely shredding them with his burst, with his pace in the open field. I mean, he literally just said, "Hey, I'm wide receiver 1 in 2023. Wide receiver 1 from here on out. Forget all the names who've left. Forget all the names who might still be here. I'm wide receiver 1, and you know what? You might want to give me this number 7 jersey as well while you're at it. That's what I'm sensing from Malik's absolutely brilliant showing tonight. Obviously, MVP of the game, throwing a touchdown, 2 for 2, 50 yards passing, but 9 catches, 163, and only his third receiving touchdown of the season, and it was a beauty. And he had to earn it, of course, every yard. We got a comment in here from the Piccolo Rocks, who is, of course, none other than our good friend Jamer. Go Tigers, she says. Indeed, Jamer, go Tigers, indeed. What a hell of a win. Everyone in comment land, tell us what you think about this thing, because this was just, I mean, you saw it all. You saw it all tonight. From all three quarterbacks to even a fourth with Malik Neighbors, and a kid whose name is already in the portal, rushing for a touchdown for us, rushing for multiple snaps. Uh, Both John Emery and Noah Kane rushing for touchdowns. We witnessed Malik Neighbors, ordain himself as the undisputed number one receiver for LSU going into the future. And then we watched Quincy Wiggins finally getting extended reps. We saw three different centers. Charles Turner goes down injured. Marlon Martinez goes in. He went down injured as well in the second half. And Garrett Dellinger has to move back to center. His season goes full circle, Garrett Dellinger. He started the season at center. He ends the season at center due to injury. Kind of funny how that happened. I hope everyone's okay with those injuries, though. That's definitely not funny. But just kind of crazy that we've seen three centers, four quarterbacks. Just madness. I mean, this is the first team with three players having a passing touchdown in the last 25 seasons in a bowl game, according to ABC, which is just crazy. And this, of course, 63-7 seals the program's biggest ever program victory. And I really want to highlight the defense, what we saw from this defense. This defense came out of this game beautiful. I mean, this defense were unreal and suffocating without three starting defensive linemen. Okay. Starting cornerback, and they held a shutout until 13 minutes left in the game. I just created turnovers, forced sacks, nailed the quarterbacks to an absolute cross, broke up passes, tackles for loss. They were rampant today. Everything you want from LSU defense, you saw today against Purdue. They absolutely showed Drew Brees, Purdue, all the Boilermakers what LSU are about, up front and personal. And this is supposed to be a team that are in transition, a team with a lot of guys missing. They showed up today, and they showed what the future of LSU is all about. And this is, I mean, we even had a score from a pick six where Frank Wilson takes it to the house at the end, 97, 98 yards. Sage Ryan deflects a pass in the end zone. The ball goes up in the air. Frank Wilson says, "Thank you," and just goes running and then makes that cut. Once he makes that cut, no one trips him up. Everyone's out of the way. There's no penalties. He's gone. Frank Wilson's son, the running backs coach, legendary LSU recruiter, his son, backup cornerback, Frank Wilson the fourth, with the pick six. An incredible moment for him, for his family, for Uncle Frank, of course. Got to be very proud. We got a comment randomly here, just an aside from DJ. Is West still at center? Well, you saw Fitzgerald West. I mean, that's the thing. You saw it all as well. With Fitzgerald West playing defensive tackle. The position he played at LCA. He was recruited to play center at LSU, comes playing center, did practice at DT at times. So, there is that history of him going back and forth. There is that history of, let's see which ones he can handle, which spots he can handle. Maybe, I think it says really no meaning on his future with what position he played today. I really don't think it has anything to do with it. I really think this is just about the needs for this game and what they wanted to do for this game. and I think they wanted to see what he could do at defensive tackle. A position they were short in tonight. But that's another guy. Since we're talking about the defense right now, we have to highlight. We absolutely have to highlight Jacobian Guillory. I know his stats only say 3 tackles, 2 solo, half tackle for loss. But when you actually watch the tape, you see a guy who is relentless in his pursuit, chasing the quarterback clear to the sidelines and grabbing him by the legs, making the tackle. Smashing through through those double teams, getting into the quarterback's face and making the quarterback hits. Not credited with a single quarterback hit when I clearly saw 2 that forced incompletions. So I don't really understand why he wasn't given credit for that. Who knows? We'll see when Pro Football Focus puts out their statistics of who was given pressures or not. But you saw Mekhi Wingo all over the field tonight. Tackle for loss, a sack for him. Fantastic outing, fantastic season for Mekhi Wingo. He's been relentless, and he continued that tonight. He finally got some rest tonight. I think was basically rested most of that fourth quarter once the shutout was lost. You know, and Jay Ward in his final game, Micah Baskerville in their final games tonight, they had some good moments as well. This was really, Micah Baskerville, third in tackles, had 2 pass breakups again. So he had 8 pass breakups this season in coverage. Micah Baskerville, 8 pass breakups in coverage. Incredible. You saw Major Burns looking really good, flying all over the place. Greg Brooks with a absolutely sick interception, an absolutely sick tackle for loss that we thought may have forced a fumble. On review, obviously it did not, but Jarek Bernard Converse with an interception as well. It was really beautiful where it's not even his guy, but he changes, goes turning right into the pick. Just brilliant coverage tonight. Brilliant coverage tonight. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pass breakups tonight from LSU's defenders. And then you look at the tackles for loss. Greg Brooks had that sick one. Harold Perkins with 1.5. Jacobian Guillory with that half. Mekhi Wingo with 2 tackles for loss. Xavier Carter looked good as well. He had broke up a pass, swatted one down, had a really nice sack. I believe his first career sack. Savion Jones, he looked pretty good in some moments, had a sack as well. This was an LSU defense that were rampant, that were beastly, that were going at, they were getting after it today. They were getting after it. Here, one second. Let me fix something up over here. Sorry, you're getting a good shot of my neck. So, people were focused on a lot on who LSU didn't have going into this game, and I was thinking, well, we're really going to find out how deep this LSU team are, how talented this LSU team are, really, and how much more work Brian Kelly and company have to do to really bridge that gap in 2023. And I got to say, it was promising after tonight, because tonight we saw top to bottom, not a perfect LSU roster, not a championship LSU roster yet, but we saw the beginnings of the nucleus of one. I think guys like Will Campbell, Emory Jones, you could argue Walker Howard when he gets his chance at quarterback. Malik Neighbors will probably only get one more year, this guy, sadly, because he's just too good. Obviously, he'll probably go to the NFL, but when you look at this team, Mekhi Wingo, Mason Smith, going to be a defensive tackle next year. And then Jacobian Guillory showed a ton of promise tonight. Showed a ton of promise. Some impressive bursts of speed as well, which I did not see coming. You got Savion Jones at defensive end, Quincy Wiggins, who had some big moments tonight. 2 tackles from him and some extended reps. He didn't really do much. There wasn't really many moments from him that were really eye-popping. But, Quincy was still, it was great to see him out there. Great to see number 93 out there at LSU. Making a few open space solo tackles though. They were really nice snapshots of his future. Harold Perkins, once again, 1.5 tackles for loss, has another sack, and forces another fumble on the season with the strip sack. Didn't get recovered, but just my God, the guy is just relentless. The kid, he's not, I can we even call him a guy? The kid is just relentless. Major Burns, I'm so glad he's coming back for next year. Really solidifies that secondary because not only is he versatile as well, but he plays every down like he's just given everything. And having someone like you know Greg Brooks Jr. as well, who gives that same energy every snap and has played the most snaps of anybody on this defense. I believe it's over 900 snaps this season. Um, Pretty much basically every snap except for the end of this game, obviously. Um, Greg Brooks Jr. Having those guys back there, they showed a lot of promise as a tandem working together. Major Burns and Greg Brooks Jr. Major Burns used as a nickel for a good portion. Jay Ward at corner had a few moments where he was targeted deep, allowed I think one catch, but was really solid as well. Didn't really do too much or have too much go his way, sadly, because he was playing corner. I wish he would have been playing safety for today so we could have seen, Jay get after it and get an interception, but keeps him healthy for the NFL, for the NFL combine and that type of thing. So, Jay, amazing career for Jay Ward. Uh, just brilliant. Clocked the miles for LSU. Kind of the end of an era, when you look at guys like Jay Ward, Micah Baskerville, and then of course, the guys who've left, who aren't going to be here next year already. B.J. Ojolari, Jack Besh, Kayshawn Booty, Ali Gay, Jaqueline Roy. These are a lot of Coach Orgeron guys. A lot of Orgeron guys who are now moving on either through the portal, into the draft. It's very interesting to see this transition with Brian Kelly, and this is the future. This is the future right here. When you're seeing on the recruiting trail, what you're seeing, on signing day, and then what you saw today. And that future is now, though, because the way that they're embracing this program and this roster is, hey, you are going to be able to start, and you should be able to take over that starting position from day one. If you're a freshman coming in at LSU, if that's not your mindset, we don't want you. You can go play at Florida. You can go play at Alabama and sit for a few years. LSU, you should be ready to come out of the gates, ready to go. And I really do believe everyone with that 2022 class, I mean, of course, maybe not everyone, obviously, but there's been some really strong, strong performances. Will Campbell, Emory Jones, all American level performances. Um, all SEC freshmen, of course, selections. Harold Perkins, of course. You've got such a strong foundation here. Mason Smith, Mekhi Wingo, both coming back as a tandem next year. Defensive end is the question, I guess, with having a lot of guys who it's like Savion Jones looks really good though whenever he plays. We just kind of rotate him in and out too much and not really able to find out all of what he can do. DJ says, if Carter can add a few pounds, I think he can take that Jack linebacker spot. Hey, Xavier Carter looked good tonight, don't you think, DJ? That pass breakup, just swatting that shit, that nice tackle for loss, and then that sack. I really love that sack from him, come flying in there, just freight train of hate pain. I mean, this was an LSU defense. This was an LSU team that were having fun playing this game. They looked like they were in the mood. They looked like they were, this was unlike what we've seen all season. where it's a slow start, it's a sluggish start, coming out of the gates, just letting this other team gain momentum, gain confidence, get going. This was an LSU team that were just foot to the throat. Every time you make a mistake, every time you fuck up, we're going to be right there to answer and to make you pay, to punish you, to make you pay. And they did that tonight. LSU were rock and roll football today. I mean, from the moment of Brian Kelly eating the Cheez-Its off the ground, the players, tackling the Cheez-It mascot guy and jumping on him and going like, taking the photos. And it was a fun atmosphere. This team were just having a ball playing together. Because for a lot of these guys, maybe not a lot, but maybe some of these guys, this is going to be a last time, last roll of the dice, last dance, together as a unit. And that's kind of a sad thing, but at the same time, it's a beautiful, bittersweet thing as well, because these guys are moving on to bigger, better things, hopefully, in the NFL level or, in the professional level. Whatever they decide to do. It's just it is kind of an end of an era when you talk about those guys leaving. Some of these guys have national championship rings. Some of these guys have a few years under Orgeron before Brian Kelly even arrived. So it's very interesting to see these guys leave. It's very interesting to see what is going to come next for a guy like Jay Ward. Should he have gone to the draft? Who's to know? I think he would have really benefited from a big second senior season here at LSU, but it's his decision to go. And I think he's gonna probably make a fantastic pro because he can play so many different spots. I think whether he struggles or not, he will still be a value pickup at the next level because of his versatility. It was it was a fun game to watch because LSU were they were letting it all hang out. They were out there just going off, having fun, kicking ass, taking names. It was a good time to watch this game, take it in, and say, you know what, it's okay what happened against A&M. It sucks, but the fact that we finished this season with 10 wins, playing the SEC championship, played 2 postseason games, which no one saw coming, 10-4 record. This defense just looked animalistic all season. Outside of 2 games, Tennessee and Texas A&M. But really, outside of those 2 games, this defense was brilliant. This offense had its ups and downs, but then it racked up the points randomly in some of these games. I mean, 63 against Purdue. We put up 30 randomly against Georgia with a backup quarterback. 41 against UAB. Of course, 32 against Alabama, but it's not really bragging about anything. 45 against Ole Miss, 45 against Florida. It's 38 New Mexico, 65 over Southern. This team randomly would be able to put up the points, but then you see 13 points against Tennessee, just 21 against Auburn, 13 against Arkansas. Just not enough. But most of these games, when you're looking at them, LSU went over 40 points once, twice, 3, 4. LSU went over 40 points 5 times this season with an offense that was not really firing on all cylinders or working like it should. The quarterback that was missing throws, missing wide open receivers, and with a disjointed and sometimes dysfunctional offensive line that was losing core pieces on the interior. The edges were not the issue. It was the interior. And until they figured that out with Anthony Bradford, got that mix right with him and Miles Frazier, until they got that mix right, that offensive line had some trouble. Once they did, LSU were able to run the ball finally. And that's the thing. That's the thing is once LSU were able to run the ball finally, then Jaden Daniels was able to get a little bit more time, feel a little bit more confident instead of just, oh crap, I'm feeling pressure. The first read's gone. I see grass. Go. He would hang in there a little bit longer. Tonight you saw him hanging in, or sorry, today you saw him hanging in a little bit longer as well. Today, he was staying in there just like you saw against Georgia. You see the progression. I love it. I love it. Uh, he looked good throwing the football. Jaden Daniels. There was a few passes where it was like typical kind of underthrown, overthrown, kind of passes from Jaden Daniels, and even some of the completions. Mason Taylor, if you hit him on that first big pass, instead of like having him fall down to basically catch the ball, if you hit him in stride a little bit there, kind of lead him a bit, he's gone. He might be gone. It's there's some lost opportunities in the way that Jaden Daniels throws the football, but there's a lot of chances for growth here, especially if he's going to win the quarterback job over Walker Howard, Garrett Nussmeier. He's going to have to bring it, and as we reported a few weeks ago, Garrett Nussmeier and Jaden Daniels both were going to be returning. Jaden Daniels announces that he's going to return. We haven't heard from Garrett Nussmeier officially yet, but as Brian Kelly echoed our reports earlier, he expects all three quarterbacks to return next fall. Of course, he would say that though, but Brian Kelly's not going to be the type of coach who's just going to say that unless he feels highly confident of that in the conversations he's had with each quarterback. Now, I feel like there's such a high ceiling for this LSU team coming over the next few years with Brian Kelly. There's such an influx of talent. Now you've got that kind of establishment of experience. You've got that enthusiasm building. You've got that, ending the season with this type of a win, it was huge. I really got to say, like, it's not like the most important moment of the season or anything like that. But going into next year, knowing that you just went and dropped a 60 burger, you saw everybody get a moment, everybody get a play, everyone feels a lot better about their position on the team, a lot better about everything. I mean, granted, you will see guys who played in this game never play another snap for LSU again and play for somebody else next season. You will see that. I mean, that's not being Nostradamus and saying that. That's kind of just an obvious thing. That's just what happens in college football nowadays. You lose players to the transfer portal whenever the portal is open, all the time for a variety of reasons. And sometimes, general public will never find out. Sometimes it's not that dramatic, guys, gals. Sometimes it's not that dramatic. Sometimes it's kind of simple things like he just wanted to go home, or he was failing classes here and wants to go to a school that he'll actually get his degree at. Just things like that. Just you know, this player doesn't like the culture here. This player isn't getting enough time on the field. Just obvious things that you would think. But looking at the LSU's future from the lens of this game, I think it tells you a lot about what Brian Kelly can do year in, year out. I'm not saying that like, ooh, the performance of Jarek Bernard Converse, the performance of Micah Baskerville, the performance of these guys who maybe have a year at best left. Baskerville's going to be gone, of course, but like JBC, he might come back. It's not. That's not really what I'm talking about. Like that's not really what I'm focusing on. What I'm focusing on is saying that Brian Kelly can retool LSU year in, year out in the portal with guys like that from other teams to fill needs in position. And then you bring in the younger guys and you gradually bring them up through this system where maybe week 1 they're not starting, but then maybe by week 4 or 5 they are if they're ready. Maybe even by week 2 or 3, hell. And then by end of season, they're a solidified star and a solidified starter. That's kind of what Brian Kelly's trying to get here is like the transfers will bring these young players along in these systems while growing their own brand as they're about to head out the door to the NFL. That's something that you saw with Mekhi Garner this season. The way he was able to kind of bring some veteran experience, some veteran nuance out wide, covering guys. And, he got beat for 2 touchdowns this season, but 24 catches out of 54 targets, the most targeted guy. Um, he had a damn good season. I don't care what anyone says. Mekhi Garner had a damn good season. And that's the type of guy that Brian Kelly can bring in every single season. But then you also look at what the type of guy that Brian Kelly's recruiting. The recruiting is getting better too. You see these type of elements, and then you see who's already there. Everyone's always okay. Who's left and who's coming, and all this talk. And now we watch this game and get our head right back into who is actually on LSU squad right now. And what you saw, if you're me, I don't know about you, but I'm very excited about the future for LSU football because of what I saw tonight. Saw today, sorry. Keep saying tonight. It's not just the way that LSU's coaches handle the situations. It's not just the way that LSU's coaches get the best out of these players or maximize every last drop of talent and stamina out of these guys. You saw what a strength and conditioning coach, a top of the line strength and conditioning coach, can do for your team. LSU, we shot ourselves in the foot this season in the games we lost. There were some coaching mistakes. There was some player mistakes. There were some moments of just insanity, moments of madness. But then all in all, you have road wins at Auburn, at Florida, the first head coach, the first LSU team to ever accomplish that. You beat Alabama in Brian Kelly's first year with a crazy last-second 2-point conversion in overtime. Roll the dice, the ultimate gamble moment. Could have blown up in Brian Kelly's face bad, and everyone would have been, go for two, Brian, go for two, BK, and instead it became a rallying cry. It became a moment of, surrender for everyone who was thinking of, should I go to LSU? Javion Toviano right after that was like, yeah, In fact, he was already signed at that point. He was recruiting Desmond Ricks for us of that game. But, this is a season where LSU went through the gauntlet. Losing that game to Florida State right out of the gates, the target, the microscope was right on the backs of Brian Kelly and his staff, and some of the more high profile players. Kayshon Boutte was boom right in the headlines of criticism, big time, for his pouting, his relationship with Jaden Daniels and Brian Kelly being under a microscope. Jaden Daniels, his run first obsessions. Questions about, is he wanting to put up his NFL stock more over than the team? Is he really kind of being more of a me first kind of guy? All these questions were swirling about LSU, all these doubts, all these wonders, while at the same time, Mason Smith out with a torn ACL. There was so much attrition for LSU at first, and we're wondering, where's a guy like Micah Baskerville? And then how come Jaquelin Roy is underperforming? Obviously, he was hurt. You're wondering what's going on. And then week 2, we kind of get it right against Southern. Kind of just have these gimme games that kind of help us get it right. But then Mississippi State, week 3, big test, down by, I believe it was 13 points, and then reverse it to a 15-point win. Insane. And it was a lot of chipping away through the legs and arm of Jaden Daniels, and that defense, of course, bailing us out in that game. It was that was a crazy game, and that was a turning point. That was a moment where it said this LSU team can win, and it can win in a variety of different ways. And then you got the Auburn game. The Auburn game where LSU were losing 17 to nothing. 17 to nothing to a freshman quarterback. Nick Ashford, right? Just killing us. Just killing us. And then BJ Ojolari pressures the quarterback, smashes the quarterback. The ball goes flying in the air. Jay Ward scoops it up and runs it in for a touchdown. Brian Kelly's all about that action. Things get crazy. Things turn. And you knew that was going to be a game-changing play. LSU didn't allow us another point. We run out of there 21-17 out of Jordan Hare. At this point in the season, LSU are really starting to build something. Really starting to put something together. But then we go running right into number 8 Tennessee right as we get into the top 25. Welcome into Death Valley. A lot of hype going into that game. A lot of hype going into that game. A lot of talk. A lot of pressure. A lot of, there's all this pressure on Tennessee to deliver in this game. Could they get upset by Brian Kelly's LSU? We're really putting something together. And Tennessee just, they ran it down our throats. And it was all because of LSU's mistakes. We just gave the game right to Tennessee. Just gave it to them. And it was so bad and so inexplicably awful that what happened next was anything but just supernaturally brilliant. We literally matched Florida score for score in this crazy shootout, 45-35 on the road. Jaden Daniels throwing the ball all over the yard, answering his critics. Then we face Ole Miss, number 7 Ole Miss, and we again hand the team a crazy lead. We hand them a 20-3 lead or something like that. It was insane. And then everything turns around with a Dre Jenkins touchdown, just like before. Dre Jenkins doing this in a few different games. Everything changes. LSU run out of there 45-20, dominate Ole Miss. Just destroy and deface Lane Kiffin in his and BK's first showdown in the SEC. Brilliant. And then you had the incredible moment, the overtime classic against Alabama. The game where it was like LSU are now a college football playoff contender. This is insane. What is happening here? This is madness. Is this a dream? No, it's reality. It's happening. That game was unlike anything you'll ever see. I mean, that was spectacular. Anyone who was there will tell you it was chills-inducing throughout, but then at the end it was a release, an orgasmic release. The fans went onto that field without even a thought. It just was a special moment, and it felt like everything could happen. Because anyone who was watching the college football landscape this season, you saw so many teams just giving away their position in the college football playoff or in any type of Final Four scenario, just giving it away. And so it was like, if LSU can just beat Alabama, we're in this thing, right? If we can just beat Alabama, avoid losing any other stupid, unnecessary games, we're in this thing, right? Well, I mean, we had to sneak through Arkansas, 13-10. It took Harold Perkins just going on a one-man mission flu game, just crazy, 4 sacks, just desecrates, devastates, defiles Arkansas in Fayetteville in the freezing cold with the flu. We get out of there 13-10 with Jaden Daniels throwing for 80 yards, passing for the second time in the season. And then, we have that senior tribute, the 41-10 beatdown of UAB. Jaden Daniels, all these guys get benched really early. Kayshon Boutte, I believe, wasn't even available for that game. I think BJ Ojolari was also sat for that game, if I'm correct. But it just seemed like we kind of need to keep the intensity going. Why are we kind of taking the foot off the gas here? You know, and I was kind of wondering what's going on here. What's going on here? Why we need to stay sharp ahead of A&M. Okay, and it just felt like maybe going in that game we took A&M a little lightly. I know Jane Daniels had went 22 of 29 for 297 against UAB. I know he ran for 112 yards in the game, was an absolute freak. I know Malik Neighbors was 7 of 129, Besh 361. You needed more. You needed more umph. You needed to keep, Garrett Nussmeier came in for, I believe, a few drives. Get every little ounce of that. Take away 6 of those carries from Jaden Daniels. Make him passing attempts. Get more practice out of this, because what we ran into was something we were not expecting. A&M were able to swallow up and shut down and contain Jaden Daniels. They were able to contain Jaden Daniels for once. It was crazy. They ran it down LSU's throat as well, on absolutely debilitated our front seven. It was crazy. And we did the unthinkable. We coughed up a college football playoff spot when we already had an SEC title game slot already booked. We coughed it up. We coughed it up. We screwed the pooch. We absolutely messed up so bad, giving away that opportunity. And now you're seeing a team like TCU get into that title game. We could have been playing Michigan in that college football playoff game. This team won in so many different ways this season. Think about it. Think of how many different crazy ways this LSU team won this season. We ran it down the throats against these guys. We passed it against these guys. We rode Jaden Daniels' legs against this team. We relied on Harold Perkins against Arkansas. That's one thing for sure. You go through it all, and it's like LSU were able to pull out wins in so many different ways. The games like Mississippi State and Auburn, it felt like our defense won us those games, basically. Kept us alive in those games somehow. Florida, our offense saved us in that game. Our defense was underperforming for once. There was these moments this season where it went back and forth, and that's the thing. We never saw the complete performance for 4 quarters from this LSU football team outside of the Alabama game. We didn't see it from LSU defense, from the LSU offense, from the LSU special teams. We didn't see a collective, all 3 phases, strong showing for 4 quarters from the entire team. It was always one great half by the defense, one poor half from the offense, back and forth, vice versa, vice versa. Mostly it was the defense playing amazing, and then they wore down at the end of the year for a bit there. And you saw what that rest did for them. I was telling you they're wore down. There was no other reason why they got ran over against A&M, and it was because they were worn the hell down. No other reason. Now, going into that SEC championship game, feeling really, really shitty about ourselves. And then we go in there and we put 30 up on Georgia. We actually really played well if we had not shot ourselves in the face with the stupidest mistakes ever. That blocked field goal return for a touchdown after we started so strong against Georgia, making really good 3rd down completion passes, putting Georgia's secondary on notice with a hobbled Jaden Daniels. And then Garrett Nussmeier came in and did the same thing. We were actually able to really make some big explosive plays on that Georgia defense left and right. Problem is we couldn't run. 2, problem is Mike Denbrock is addicted to running in the red zone, which led to us screwing up in the red zone against Georgia because we ran it right into the best front 7 in all of football. Stupid. Throw it wide. senseless. But Mike Denbrock, I think, is all in all had a good season, and I think it shows when he's able to take things that haven't gone well, things that haven't gone right, and flip them and turn them into complete advantages for LSU. And today, you finally just gave your playmaker the football. You finally just gave Malik Neighbors the football like you did against Georgia, but without Kayshon Boutte or Jack Besh taking any receptions. You just went all in on Malik and said, "You're our Justin Jefferson. We're just going to go all in on you." Just 9 catches, 12 targets. That has to be the most on the season, I swear to God. Um, Brilliant from Malik Neighbors. And you saw him just take this game over. You saw LSU's defense help him. And you saw, really strong play from both Garrett Nussmeier and Jaden Daniels. Both played well. Jaden Daniels making still some awesome runs in the open field. He took some big hits you're worried about him taking. He's susceptible to these hits when he's just in the open field. Guys are just going to go looking to smash him and get him hurt. I would love to see Jaden Daniels gain some muscle mass and some poundage in the offseason. I know he's probably worried about that taking away some of his speed. But I think he can sacrifice a little bit of that speed for maybe 5-6 more pounds on you of bulk just to protect you, man. But for whoever you were a fan of, if you're a fan of Walker Howard, if you're a fan of Garrett Nussmeier, if you ride in that Nuss bus, if you are a Jaden Daniels believer and denier, sometimes this is a game where we can all agree, where we can all get together and have fun. That's my guy. He's out there. Yep, everybody's guy is out there. It was one of those games that are going to be looked back on in LSU history with kind of a smile and a chuckle, because we saw some guys that are going to be having a huge impact on the program of the next few years in this game. And some we saw kind of have these moments where they're coming to life. Some we just saw have some moments where it's just their first reps and just they're out there and they're taking it all in. Nothing too big or dramatic happening. And there's a beauty in that, of seeing the beginning of something special like this, where I really feel that this 2022 group are the beginnings of an LSU championship squad. If you looked at what we did this season and would think anything other than that, I think you're a little clueless when you look at the nucleus of this team and where they're headed. I'm going to get to catch up with some of these comments. DJ says Daniels needs an off season where he's only allowed to throw the ball and can't use his legs. I believe his legs has handicapped him and hurt his development as a quarterback. Absolutely. I agree 100%. And I still really like Jaden Daniels. I am someone, if you follow my coverage, you will know I'm not firmly on the Nuss bus, or I'm firmly in the Jaden Daniels bag. If you're kicking ass for LSU, like if you want to be our starting quarterback and you want to take us to the promised land, great. I'm all in. I love all of our Tigers and back all of our guys. I just want to see them maximize our team, and neglecting your receiving core, those guys for that entire season, just frankly unacceptable. And I'm glad the season ended the way it did. It makes, that bitter taste in my mouth a little less bitter. But I feel like Jaden Daniels, when he can't run, as I saw live in person against Georgia, he was throwing some dimes. He was carving Georgia up. So, it's interesting because sometimes you want to say, "Oh, well, Jaden Daniels has such a great arm and stuff." He doesn't have a great arm, though. Sometimes he makes some really poor throws. And I think him putting up yards, him completing passes and stuff is all well and good, but when you actually watch the film, watch the passes, watch the plays, if you actually played the game, sometimes you know that there's a mile of space, and instead of that receiver catching it and going, he's shit, stop, and then barely catching it, and then taking a huge hit that he should have never had to even take in the first place because of the throw. There's just these things that it's like, oh, why did the receiver drop that? Why was it? Well, he's running a slant where the ball is coming at him right when he looks. The ball is there, and he looks, and the ball is like up here, and it's like just uncatchable. Like how? I mean, you just can't fault the receivers for what happened this season. You just can't. And I'm not saying Jaden Daniels is the worst, and we got to get rid of him. Oh my God, I think Jaden Daniels can improve. I think Jaden Daniels has all the tools to become that colossal Heisman candidate LSU fans are hoping he can be. I know he can put it all together. The question is, will he? Will he be able to trust his receivers over his own abilities? That's a tough thing when you have such an unbelievable eye-popping skill set like he does. When you have the talent to make a home run touchdown play on every down from any place on the field, that's something so special not to be trifled with, that it is hard to wrestle that ability away and the knowledge of that ability when you've got a guy like 80 yards down the field. It's like, well, yeah, I can put everything into this throw, and maybe if I throw it, my knee gets smashed, and maybe this guy, I'm just gonna book it. I see the space, boom, because that's what I've been conditioned to do. That's what's easier for me, and I'm not used to playing with all these great receivers who want the ball and can change games. But I think Jaden Daniels is realizing that that just can't happen again this year, this next year in 2023. This just can't happen again. This was a very 2022 thing about transition, getting it through it, putting together plans that everyone can dial up and complete. And a lot of that is design runs with Jaden Daniels. I think you're going to see a lot of that phase out of the offensive game plan in 2023, where we have to lean on our receivers in those big games, or we will be exposed. We will lose big, tough games because of the obsession with the running game. And I think you're seeing top defensive coordinators start to really identify when Jaden Daniels is going to run the football, how he's going to, where he likes to run, the type of tendencies that we just never seem to get away from for him running the football. Um, you see him all the time make these sick RPO fakes, and just guys go flying past him. Guys are still sliding because he's just so elusive. But there's also some really smart teams that are willing to give him 3 or 4 or 5 yard chunks, even 6, 7 yard chunks, if it means they get to deliver big, nasty hits and keep him from going for 30 plus. That's what they're looking for. That's what A&M accomplished, Arkansas accomplished, and Arkansas almost won that game. A&M beat the living shit out of us. So it's obviously something that if it was unstoppable, it'd be like, who cares? LSU can win games however they want, and I just want LSU to win. So however you win games, just do it. But it's not unstoppable anymore. And so he's got to throw the football. Walker Howard, Garrett Nussmeier, the two most interesting players of the offseason for LSU. We all know what we've seen from Jaden Daniels. We all know that he's going to progress. At least he should. And we're going to at least see the evidence of him progressing or not very soon out of the gate in spring, fall. We'll kind of be able to tell, I think. And then once it gets ready for game time, especially, you'll be able to know within the first game, at least, if he's going to get rid of those tendencies. But with Garrett Nussmeier, Walker Howard, it's like, where are their futures at LSU? Where are they headed? What is the grand scheme for them? it's like almost evident that one of them will leave. It's almost unfathomable for Walker Howard to leave LSU. So it's expected most likely that, you know, Jaden Daniels wins the starting job at some point in the offseason, and then Walker becomes the true number 2 backup because Nuss leaves. That's what everyone is kind of the narrative everyone's drawing up in their heads. But just think about this. This is college football. Someone could have a torn ACL. Someone random that you don't think about could transfer. A transfer quarterback could come in. Hell, freshman Ricky Collins could be the best quarterback of them all or something. And everyone goes, okay, Joe Sloan and Brian Kelly are like, this is the guy. Don't be so married to these opinions in January when the season starts in late August, early September. Targeting on the pod says, give us that knowledge, Lon. What's up, guys? What's up, bro? Log T, Blaine. My guys, how you doing? Targeting on the pod says, Brian Polian, get out, Louisiana. Brian Thompson, Jeray Jenkins had to make big plays on coming back to the ball all year. Oh, God, yeah. It was reminding me of, Danny Etling throwing the football to, like, DJ Chark. And how many times DJ Chark was, like, almost like a corner making an interception because he'd be coming back to make these crazy catches. It was crazy. And I thought that type of quarterback play was kind of getting phased out of LSU. But, Jaden Daniels had brought so many proper qualities to this team with his athleticism, with his poise, with his leadership. Just totally unflappable. But the missed opportunities in the passing game were some of the major reasons we were actually in these close games in the first place. And people, if you don't realize that, if you're in denial about that, if you can't take that truth, go back and watch the games, and you'll see a lot of wasted drives because of this. And a lot of it is because of indecision too. A lot of psychological warfare of, should I throw or should I run? I guess I'll do nothing. Like it's something LSU had to grow through in this season. Something Jaden Daniels had to face, look in the mirror, and say, what type of quarterback am I going to become? And I think he's kind of done that. I think he's going to figure out where his biggest mechanical issues lie. And obviously it's in the progressions. Obviously it's in identifying open receivers. Obviously it's dissecting coverages. It's a lot of classroom stuff and a lot of mechanical stuff that he's got to really become obsessed with this day and night if he wants to be that Heisman candidate quarterback we all know he can be, if he can put it all together. Jaden Daniels was almost close to that this season. No LSU quarterback, or no, sorry, no LSU player had ever put up as many yards. Wait, I want to make sure I get this right. No LSU player had ever put up as many yards in a single season as Jaden Daniels, except for Joe Burrow, I believe was the correct stat. Or it could be quarterback, but for which quarterback has put up the most yards. I'm not sure exactly on that stat, but it was crazy how much. It's something like 3,000 something that Jaden Daniels has put up. It's been a hell of a season from him. Pope English says, I hope we can get Derek Davis Jr. to stay. That's why I was saying we've seen it all today. We've seen it all today. Because we even saw a guy who just barely put his name in the transfer portal score a touchdown for us. I mean, what the hell? Like the Twilight Zone. Like, what the hell are we seeing? It was a crazy game. It was a crazy game, and it was a fun game for LSU fans to watch, wasn't it? I know you had fun watching it because I did. I really think it's going to be some interesting footage, some interesting game film for you to look back and watch. I want you to post in the comments down below when you're watching this later, um, or if you're watching this now, post it right now. What was your favorite game this year to rewatch? And I'm sure you're gonna say, Alabama, but if there's one that you would put outside of Alabama, I would kind of like to hear that one more than Alabama. And yeah, I definitely want to hear your opinion on what games you've enjoyed watching, rewatching back this season, because it's been a very, very intriguing season when you've seen how this staff has developed into what they're doing, how this roster is kind of taking shape, how we've been able to use recruiting and seeing guys like freshman Will Campbell, Emory Jones just take off like that. Harold Perkins just fulfill every promise and then some. Malik Neighbors look like mini Justin Jefferson out there, writing his own script, being an absolute freak, just dog out there. Malik Neighbors, unreal. Only the second LSU Tiger since 2019 to eclipse over 1,000 yards. Joining Ty Davis Price, just nuts, just nuts. And congrats to Malik for that hell of a season. Congrats to LSU for a hell of a season. Hell of a season for Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly is the coach of the future for LSU, is the coach of the now. He's definitely rebuilt this roster from 38, 39 scholarships to 60 going into this game. And, that's a lot to do with opt-outs and things like that at the end of the season. You lose those 10 or so players. So LSU basically had 70 plus on scholarship. This is a rebuilt roster. This is a rebuilt team. This is a program that didn't need any rebuilding. We have the resources. We have the roster here already. We just needed a coach to come in and say, "Hey, let's retool this thing. Let's figure out a culture that can turn us into change the way that LSU thinks about themselves. Change the way that LSU's players think about the program. Change the way the fans think about the program. Change the way college football thinks about LSU." And after today, especially getting that 10th win on the season, you can't help but think that Brian Kelly has made that impact, has crossed that Rubicon, has been effective, has completed that mission, and kind of waking everyone up to what LSU is bringing in the future, and making a few people kind of raise their eyebrow, and a few people kind of get a little uneasy, a little hot under the collar, worrying about playing us next year. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us this season. We're going to be having so much more content coming at you. A lot of stuff we've been working on, probably about 5, 6, 7 different things coming at you over the next few days. Some interviews, some stuff you're going to want to check out. LSUODYSSEY.com. I can't say it enough. If you always watch us on this YouTube channel and you like the YouTube channel, then what are you waiting for than going to LSUODYSSEY.com? Most of the content is free. There is a subscription thing that gets you that breaking news, before people know it. Like, if you had been a subscriber, you would have known that Jaden Daniels was coming back almost, I think it's 6 days before everyone else knew. So, those are the type of things that you get as a subscriber at LSUODYSSEY.com. But thank you for joining us here. Thank you for joining us if you're watching it on the site, if you're watching it on YouTube, wherever the hell you're watching it. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Uh, I mean, hell of a group of people in here watching us. Thank you, Poe. Thank you, Mac Washington. Thank you all once again, targeting on the pod, our boys, Log T, Blaine. Thank you, Liz Fitzpatrick. And of course, Jamer, a great friend, Auntie Jamer, and our guy DJ as well. Everybody, this is LSU Odyssey signing out. 2023, it's going to be a hell of a year. We're coming in bigger, faster, stronger. Get ready.